New Year's Eve 1912. It was the start of something big for Hamilton, for Canada. It marked the birth of a generation of steelmakers that would change the face of the region and industry across North America.
On December 31st, 1912, Clifton Sherman presided over the first heat of steel in what was to become one of Canada's most iconic companies, Dofasco.
Built on the foundation that an organization's strength comes from its people, Dofasco pioneered a workforce and a culture that would be the envy of manufacturers and emulated by big business across the country.
I first worked with Dofasco in the mid-'80s, and right away I noticed that this was not your typical steel business. Everyone from the plant to the boardroom was engaged and intensely committed to the company, willing to reinvent the business to keep it one step ahead of the competition.
Every employee was responsible for continuously improving the company. For each decade, there are countless examples of how successful this was.
After incorporating on September the 27th, 1912, the company took off, feverishly filling orders needed for World War I. But after the war, and again in the 20s, Dominion Foundries was on the brink of collapse. Perseverance and an ingenious move to flat-rolled steel turned the page on its fortunes. Tin set Dofasco on a path of being a producer of high-value steels, and at the time, Canada's only producer of tin. At the same time, the company's culture was growing. With the launch of a yearly picnic, an employee newspaper, and the Dofasco profit-sharing savings fund, the company was far ahead of its time. By the 1950s, the Dofasco team revolutionized steelmaking with North America's first basic oxygen furnace. In the 60s, we were producing galvanized coils by the mile with Canada's first continuous galvanizing line. In the 70s, Dofasco took a fervent stand on environmental impacts of steelmaking, unveiling its first environmental policy.
To close out the 1970s, the company built a sprawling employee recreation center for company employees and their families to enjoy. Recreation had long been a part of the employee experience here, and now it had an official home. However, like every decade before it, as the 1980s took shape, there were uncertain times, and Dofasco undertook its first major downsizing. The challenges were met head-on and overcome. The changing face of steel was ongoing, and the company found itself with a major failed investment and a workforce that was far bigger than what was required to support the operation. We were $900 million in debt. We buckled down, shuttered equipment, and downsized through early retirement programs and attrition, working to define our unique value proposition to the employees that remained solutions in steel.
When ArcelorMittal acquired Dofasco in 2006, it was the best little steel mill in the world because of a vision shared by past and present employees. But the world was changing. A fundamental shift had occurred in the steel business, and the global economy was about to change next. Industry giants were merging. We were on the cusp of what would be one of the world's deepest recessions.
Every generation of Dofasco employee has weathered a storm. To me, this is a key element of Dofasco's success. Through it all, we've always been about working together. At our very core, Dofasco has always been about challenging the status quo, developing and working toward world-class performance.
This year, even more critical decisions were made, setting the stage for the next century of steelmaking in Hamilton. Every juncture in past, present and future, it's our team's adaptability that keeps us strong. We've never stood still. Change has been a way of life. It's no secret. People have always been our strength, our competitive advantage. Through a century-rich commitment to innovation and ingenuity, a small foundry has grown into an integral part of a global steel and mining powerhouse. In Hamilton, we make steel, and we do it by making change a way of life. Every day, we look for ways to continuously improve, to be increasingly safe, smart, and precise. And in 2012, that's easier than ever before.
Today, ArcelorMittal is the world's largest steel and mining company, and Dofasco is one of our flagship operations. As at Dofasco, our strength is the people who make up our company across 4 continents, from the deserts of Saudi Arabia to the Canadian Arctic North. Nearly 260,000 employees in 60 countries help produce more than 100 million tons of steel and more than 60 million tons of iron ore and coal a year. From raw materials to finished products, ArcelorMittal is a leader in all major global steel markets: automotive, construction, household appliances, and packaging.
We're everywhere, in the air, in plants, and in conference calls. ArcelorMittal Dofasco is around the world on assignment. Everywhere you turn, we're changing the way the world looks. We're making cars lighter and stronger, reducing emissions. We're making the finest steel for the best products, from bikes and cans to homes and skyscrapers. But who we are isn't simply about where we have been or what we have done. It's more about what we're capable of doing. We're a steel and mining company, but we've always been more than that. We make investments in hope, help, and tomorrow. We make healthcare and education and the arts a priority. We make cats roar and music rock, and we still make Christmas a party.
In 1912, a generation helped change the face of Hamilton Steel. 100 years later, ArcelorMittal Dofasco Steel and its steelmakers are around the world transforming tomorrow.